Hey, what's up, nerds? Today we're going to crack open a frozen time capsule from Magic's distant past. June 1995, 30 years ago, when Clinton was president, Batman Forever was in theaters, and Ice Age wasn't an animated movie with an anxiety-ridden squirrel. It was Magic's first attempt to prove it could survive without Alpha, Beta, or Garfield directly steering the sleigh. That's right, as mentioned before, this month marks 30 years since the release of Ice Age, Magic's first ever standalone set. And today we're celebrating the good, the bad, and the ugly of this bold, ambitious, gloriously inconsistent pile of cardboard. First, we need a little bit of context. Ice Age was originally meant to follow Arabian Nights, or at least definitely earlier in Magic's run. It was supposed to actually be called Magic Ice Age instead of Magic the Gathering Ice Age. Now, there's a whole lot of issues with that because the word magic itself couldn't be copyrighted, so what were you doing? And it was going to be brand confusion. You get it. Wizards decided to release a lot of smaller sets and that one larger one, Legends. Ice Age as an expansion followed 4th edition and Fallen Empires, to lower your expectations. But when Ice Age dropped, the media push was huge, including a really questionable promo video. It was Magic's first standalone expansion, which meant that it reprinted all the basic lands, and it also reprinted essential spells like Disenchant, Dark Ritual, and it had enough cards, I think 383 of them, to build entire decks without ever touching a 4th edition starter deck. It was a big deal. Now let's fire up the mana rig and break it all down. The good, the bad, and oh yes, of course, the ugly. So the good. Look, this was fully independent Magic. This was huge. Ice Age had its own lands. It reprinted core staples like Counterspell, Swords to Plowshares, Dark Ritual, and Icy Manipulator, which we hadn't seen since Revised. You could technically start with Ice Age and be a fully functional wizard without ever learning what a mana rock was. I mean, you weren't a super powerful wizard, but you get the idea. This was Magic's first step toward a future where expansions could live on their own without needing the original base set as a crutch. As we've seen over Magic's history, that's how the expansions are printed now. Also, let me tell you, flavor text for days. If you didn't spend long nights in 95 memorizing Sheldoran military aphorisms or quoting Zur the Enchanter like he was Shakespeare, well, you weren't even trying. So then we had snow permanence and the birth of niche mechanics, or niche mechanics, depending on where you're coming from. Snow-covered basics, at the time, it was a weird novelty. Now, a mechanic with decades of baggage and a cult following bigger than creepazoids, which, Ice Age gave us the first snow cards, snow-covered forest, snow-covered islands, and of course, the Snow Devil, the weirdest frost-themed aura you never asked for. These snow-covered permanents wouldn't truly come into their own until Cold Snap or Modern Horizons. So this one's near and dear to my heart. At this time, in summer of 95, the art was peaking. Seriously, Ice Age hit that mid-90s sweet spot of hand-painted weirdness. Quentin Hoover, Anson Maddox, Dan Frazier, Ron Spencer. It's a gothic winter wonderland. The fin-horned elves look like something out of a Renaissance fairy tale, and Jester's Cap is still one of the most iconic card images ever printed, even though the card hasn't aged all that well. So now we got to move on to the bad, right? If there's some good, there's got to be some bad. The universe is about balance. So Ice Age also gave us the power level roller coaster. This set gave us Necropotence, or Necropotence, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Yes, the actual Necropotence. One of the most busted black cards ever printed. But it also gave us Balduvian Shaman, a 1/1 that can counter global enchantments only if you tap it before the enchantment resolves and your opponent sneezes in the right direction. We went from 0 to broken to broke faster than a Blockbuster checkout line on Friday night. Ice Age power level was all over the place. Some cards like Zuran Orb, Brainstorm, and of course, Necropotence, would go on to be legendary. Others, Melting, wouldn't have cracked a high school science project. And then we got to talk about Cumulative Upkeep, the taxation mechanic. If ever there was a mechanic designed for someone who just loved paperwork and simple math, it was Cumulative Upkeep. Paying 1 mana this turn, then 2 mana next turn, then 3, and eventually you're taking out a second mortgage on your Mystic Remora. And don't forget cards like Glacial Chasm, where the Cumulative Upkeep was life. That one's going to stay on the board for a long time. Sure, it led to interesting designs, but mostly it made you want to cry by turn 5. And since The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is probably my favorite Western movie of all time, here we are, The Ugly. First off, the print quality. While it was better than The Dark, per se, Ice Age cards are known for some dull colors, miscuts, and gray borders caused by deficient amounts of black ink. Wizards was still working out the kinks in the printing tech, and Ice Age felt the pain. They had plenty of money to fill the ink pots by then, but evidently they took the shortcut. And this isn't really Ice Age's fault, but number 2 on the list of The Ugly is, well, Homelands showed up a few months later. This is like inviting your least cool cousin to a wedding because technically he's family. Homelands was stapled into the Ice Age block. Why? Because it came next as far as expansions, I guess. But later on, Wizards got wise and took it out and tossed Cold Snap in there instead. The tonal clash between Homelands and Ice Age was like mixing The Shining with Gilligan's Island. It just didn't work. And then finally, the ugly, ugly truth of overproduction and the coming gluts. Wizards had already produced a metric shit ton of Fallen Empires cards. 4th edition had a huge print run too. Wizards printed a lot of Ice Age. I've seen numbers around 500 million floated out on the internet. The collector bubble was forming. I should say, the first collector bubble. The overprinting here was a sign of things to come. It was a wave that crests with Chronicles and Homelands within months, and then Wizards takes nearly a year off before delivering Alliances. The market didn't know it yet, but Ice Age helped set the stage for one of Magic's first existential crises. But hey, it's not a real era of Magic unless it almost kills the game, right? Right? Despite its flaws, Ice Age still holds a special frostbitten place in Magic's history. It taught Wizards that standalone sets could work. It introduced evergreen reprints as part of expansions. It gave us the bones of future mechanics and lore, Snowlands, Cumulative Upkeep, and even the first whisperings of Dominaria's post-Cataclysm timeline. And I haven't even mentioned that Ice Age began what would be the first block format of Magic. That's pretty cool, right? I miss blocks. Do you miss blocks? And for those of us that were there in 1995, cracking packs that smelled like fresh plastic, Ice Age was a beautiful, awkward, essential part of growing up with Magic. So here's to 30 years of Ice Age, to the Necropotence, the Zuran Orb, and yes, even the trusty old Jester's Cap. May your Cumulative Upkeep always be someone else's problem. Hey, if this trip down Magic's frozen memory lane warmed your heart just a little, smash that like button like it owes you a snow-covered swamp. Subscribe to the Nerd Crypt for more cardboard history, pixelated nostalgia, and hot takes colder than Cheld's Reach. See you next time, nerds. Stay awesome to each other. Have a great week.